Hey, real quick, I've got a serious question for you. Are you cheating on God? Hey guys, welcome back to The Drive. My name is Pastor Spencer, and before you write me off and say, yeah, I know, idolatry bad, but I'm not worshiping any golden idols, I want to bring to light a particularly sneaky and dangerous form of idolatry that so many Christians don't even know about, so stay with me. In our narrative at the church this week, we're looking at Daniel chapter 3, and we all know the story. King Nebuchadnezzar sets up a massive idol, and he commands all of his kingdom to bow down. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they hold to their convictions, and they refuse to bow down, and that gets them in particularly hot water. And this leads us to having an open discussion about idolatry today, and let's see how well you're holding the line. So, what is idolatry? In our American context, idolatry takes many forms, and while most of us are not bowing down and worshiping gold and silver shrines, you could say we're worshiping other things like sports teams, celebrities, culture, lifestyle. Simply put, anything you put before God is an idol, and that could even be good things. Now, in our American, fast-paced, busy lives, I would say anything you spend more time on than God is an idol. And this could be work, a hobby, a relationship, you name it. It could be anything. And as Romans 12:1-2 reminds us, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Offering our bodies. What does that mean? Honestly, it's offering everything you have. You can't take your hobbies and your fancy job titles into heaven with you, but the one thing we can't live without is our bodies. Without our bodies, we have no life on this earth, and this flesh bag is the vessel that the Lord has given us to serve Him in this lifetime. And as we see, we are commanded to offer it all to Christ, not just part of it, our entire lives. Therefore, there are no part-time Christians, and God doesn't have any grandchildren, so your faith has to be your own and not your parents' faith. In part 2 of that passage, we are not to conform to the image of the world. Just like King Nebuchadnezzar tried to conform Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to his image and to his will, the world, if we are not careful and alert and on guard, is slowly going to mold us and conform us to its image rather than God's image. Yet, what is the human condition? Well, when we look at Scripture, we see, yet again, Israel played the harlot with other gods, which is really to play the role of a prostitute. And that's pretty strong language from God here, and I would challenge you to dig deeper into a study of the spiritual meanings behind that on your own. But the point here is to say that when we put something in front of God, we are effectively cheating on God. And that ultimately sums up the human condition. If you don't believe me, just look at Exodus 32, the incident with the golden calf. The nation of Israel just freshly and miraculously freed from bondage in Egypt, and within 40 days of Moses' absence, getting the word from God, they set up a golden calf and bowed to it as if it was the God that delivered them from Egypt. Now, this is a great demonstration of idol worship, but it's also another form of idolatry that's really, really sneaky in our American culture, is the improper worship of the one true God. The intention of Aaron here was to give credit to God and unite the people. However, he had broken the commandments of God to do so by setting up an image and misrepresenting the true image of God. And long story short, many would say, oh, it doesn't really matter how we worship God. He knows our hearts. But in reality, the master of the universe has prescribed a particular kind of way that we should worship him, and we don't have the luxury as his creation to rewrite that law. That's like me saying my dog's favorite snack in the whole world is rat poison, and she knows I love her when I give her rat poison. Am I doing the dog any favors? Absolutely not. The only thing I'm doing is making myself feel good. And it's just like that with God. If I don't worship him the way that he has commanded, I'm really worshiping myself, as I have become the focal point of that act of worship rather than God being the focal point of our hearts. As Jesus said in John 4, true worshipers are those that will worship in spirit and in truth. Yes, God does know your heart, but if you seek him with your whole heart, you will discover what authentic worship truly is. Now, back to our narrative here in Daniel chapter 3, our young Hebrew men here hold the line in a pretty powerful way. While they could have appeased society and appeased the king by kneeling down and going through the motions and making it look like they were doing the thing while keeping God in their hearts, the problem with that is they would have been giving King Nebuchadnezzar honor and glory on the outside, and they would have effectively cheated on God and destroyed any testimony they had. Instead, they held the line and they proved the difference between faith and belief. As the king threatened to throw them into the furnace, they told him in verse 17, "If that is the case, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold image that you have set up." So what's the difference between belief and faith? Well, belief is acknowledging that there is a true God and Lord of the universe while doing absolutely nothing about it and still worshiping a God of our own creations. While faith, on the other hand, is knowing that that God has the power to rescue you from the fiery furnace and refusing to worship other gods and praising him even if he doesn't. So how are you holding the line? Are you willing to endure the fire for God? Is that the kind of faith that you have today, or are you just playing the part until the furnace gets hot? Well, that's what we've got for you this week. Download the study guide, gather your friends and family, and drive deeper into Scripture together, and I'll catch you right here next week on The Drive.